and welcome to episode 21 of C3 Crystals, Cauldrons, and Cocktails. I'm River.
And I'm Wren.
And today we're going to talk about readings, and more specifically, wax readings. But first, we're drinking something really fun. Wren, tell us what you did.
While don't just say me, while we were playing with recipes, we created something really yummy. So it's rum, vodka, lemon juice, blue curacao, and Sprite. It's delicious.
And it's blue.
But during our ramblings, I shout, "It's holy water!" So we are drinking holy water.
Yep, that's what we named it. Very nice. So tell us a little bit about readings.
So readings in general, there are many types of readings. There are wax readings, tarot readings, tea readings, crystal ball readings, candle readings, and the list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Readings are used for different things, and one type of reading may fit your needs better for like your certain situation.
Yeah. I mean, basically a reading is divination. So while no one can predict the future 100%, you through introspection and insight and a little help from the universe, or as some call it, higher consciousness or energy that surrounds us, we can bring clarity to our situation or someone else's if we're doing the reading for someone else for the purpose of lending a better perspective. Mm-hmm. So we actually did an episode on pendulum scrying before, which was pendulum divination. And so you can go listen to that. I didn't look up what episode number that was, but you can go listen to that if you are interested. Mm-hmm. And, some divinations are yes or no questions, like with the pendulum, the way it swung, swing, swing, swing and did swing, would tell you yes or no. But reading a candle wax is a little more intricate as far as how you interpret the answers. Mm-hmm. Wax readings are ones that you read, you look at you'll explain more about how it's done, but mm-hmm. It's not as simple as a divination with a scrying pendulum that swings to the yes.
Yeah, yes or no, or
yeah. So tell us about some wax readings.
So from the Learn Religion's website, it says, and I'm quoting it because I feel like I couldn't sum it up better than what it already said.
Yeah, I like that website. I use them a lot.
I know you do. you always get to that website before I can. Mm-hmm. So the Learn Religion's website says a candle wax reading is similar to reading tea leaves, but instead of reading symbols and messages formed by wet tea leaves inside your teacup, it's the candle drippings formed in water that we interpret. No matter what type of divination tools you use, two basic elements are required: a question and an answer. And I liked how this website summed it up because it really gives you the visual that you need probably going into it.
How it all works. Yeah. That really is a very good website, you guys, for any kind of topic. Usually I'm the one that gets to my research before Wren. She got to it mm-hmm. first today, but mm-hmm. that is one of my go-to websites. So I do highly encourage that you go check them out. But mm-hmm. also candles can be read in other ways too. You can read the smoke from a candle. You can read the way that the flame flickers or doesn't flicker. And of course, wax, you can watch the candle melt and read it as it melts. You can mm-hmm. read the direction of the flow after it melts. You can read this one was fun, where you take a candle and just let it burn all the way down. Mm-hmm. You just let it burn. You don't drip. You don't use the wax that way. You actually let that candle burn all the way down and you read the remnants of the wax, which I thought was really cool. And then, like Wren said, actually dripping them into the water is a good way to do it too. It's called chiromancy, is the actual technical term for reading candles and candle wax. Mm-hmm. And then what Wren is going to talk about is what she was talking about is the dripping it into the water. And that is chiromancy, but it's a form of it called candle drip divination. So I've got a little bit of history on candles in general. The very first known candle was called a rushlight. And this was the first use of beeswax and the use of animal fats. So what they did was they took these rushes, like you see on the old TV shows, the rushes that they would put on the ground to walk on and all of that back in the day. They would take those rushes and soak them in animal fats or beeswax. And this was noted as early as 3000 BC.
Wow.
And tombs of rulers were actually unearthed that found candles resembling today's beeswax candles. And then also the Romans were the ones that actually finally perfected candle making and came up with the first wicks that were used. They had woven fibers, or I can't remember the name, but they would roll up like paper inside, and that would be the wick. So they actually advanced candle making in the time of the Romans, and then people could have them to light their homes or their places of worship. Another ancient way to make candles came from India, and they made candles for their temples and homes by boiling cinnamon and using the byproduct of the boiling to create candles with. Because in India, there was a ban on burning any kind of candle made with animal fats because certain animals there are sacred. So I found that fascinating. And then the popularity of candle magic came about when the quality of candles made them so that they were available. I mean, before it was like just churches had them and that kind of thing. And then the commercialization, this is a really good drink, Wren. As early as 1940s, the hoodoo started to become popular. And there were books that were published about that time. The Master Book of Candle Burning by Henri Gamache, which it's still in print today. It's so good.
Oh, wow.
It's still a go-to book for candle magic. And then another book was The Guiding Light to Power and Success by Mikhail Strabo. And all of those things started our modern day candle magic. Do you know that if a candle burns from yellow and turns to a blue flame, it means that there's a ghost present?
I did not know that, but scientifically that doesn't make sense.
Well, supposedly it's a friendly ghost, if that helps any.
Maybe, but I just know that the blue part of a flame is the hottest part. So if it turns all blue, then that's like really hot, and that's like,
and it's hot because there's a ghost around. Okay.
Yeah, but don't ghosts usually like cool the area? Isn't it like cold?
Maybe that's why the flame is even hotter, because the air around it is colder.
That makes no sense.
Sounded good to me.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have any history on candle magic or candle wax readings?
I do. I forgot to put the new link. This one goes to a new link, but all the links will be down below. It is also said that, and I'm going to mess this up. I know it's
divining.
Divining. When I read it, it was like divining.
Well, I think it could be divining. But divining is how I pronounce it. It might be divining.
Yeah. Okay.
You always assume that you pronounce it wrong, but you could be totally right. I just say it with very confidence, so it sounds like I'm right.
It sounds right. So it is also said that divining with candles to tell the future has been a common tradition in many cultures. Wow, they used tradition twice. I quoted this one because I also thought that it was good, but they used traditions twice and I didn't realize. So it's particularly in the Ukraine, like Slavic and Balkan countries. So this tradition
currently or just tradition. So that means from the past.
So traditions, but I think they still do practice.
Oh, okay.
So it's been carried forth. Not everything, but a lot of the part of the, what's the word I'm going for? Not ceremony, but like the session type.
Yeah. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Ceremony was a good
are
word.
Still used.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this tradition has been done on certain days of the year, such as St. Andrew's Day on December 13th. St. Andrews is the patron. I always say that word wrong. Did I say it right?
Yep, you did.
Patron saint of Ukraine, which is the feast day of St. Andrew that was celebrated with the various folk traditions and customs.
That's interesting. I've never heard of St. Andrew, but I'm not particularly Christian or Catholic trained. So
there were also divination games that were commonly done on St. Andrew's Day, such as young girls would divine with the candle wax to see who their future husbands would be, which
I mean, that's fun.
Yeah. And then the tradition of candle wax divination is still done, like I said, by fortune tellers known as, and I'm not going to pronounce it correctly,
Varazka.
Yeah, Varazka and Malfarka, like in the Ukraine. So I'm
basically
not
Ukrainian shamans. Yeah.
So, and I also want to say, go check out this website. I do have that. It is the Tarot Pugs website that I have linked, but it's great. I would go read it. I definitely did not put all the information that I read into my notes because I think that y'all should go check it out.
Yeah, there is a lot of really fascinating stuff. Of course, I find weird things to be fascinating, but it's actually thought that chiromancy around the period of CE 500, which I am not up on all of the terms BCE and CE and AD and all of that stuff. But anyway, BC.
I think BCE is also the same as CE. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the same.
So CE 500, candles burned during a druid's vigil was poured into a bowl and then into a clear pool of cold water. And it was believed that they could read the portents of the future. And that was all the way back in CE 500. So this is a long time in practice. Also, I found this fascinating. Did you know? It's another did you know thing. In the 16th century, a renowned Venetian courtesan. I always pronounced it courtesan.
Well, I've been in classes. I take a lot of art history.
She's a hooker, okay? She's a hooker.
Courtesan.
Well, basically, she's a hooker. And her name was Veronica Franco, and she was famous not just for her notable clientele. Apparently, a lot of wealthy dudes were into her, but also her feminist advocacy, her literary contributions. She wrote poems and poetry and stuff, and her philanthropy. But she was charged by the Inquisition for practicing chiromancy to discover the identity of a thief in her household. So she was dragged in front of the Inquisition for practicing this candle magic. And she beat the charge by admitting that she had participated in the ceremony, but that she really didn't believe in it. Because apparently back then you had to believe in it to be a heretic.
Oh.
But my thought is she was probably banging some of the dudes on the Inquisition panel and they let her go.
Whatever you say.
So anyway, that was a little bit off topic there, but I found it really fascinating. So
yeah, it's interesting. It's part of the history.
Yeah. She used that candle magic to try to find the thief in her. I wonder if it worked. It didn't say whether it worked or not.
Oh,
but I found that kind of cool. She was a cool dude back then because, I mean, to get away with what she got away with, because they were burning people and hanging people at that time. And all she had to say was, no, I didn't really believe in it. So like I said, yeah, she was banging those guys.
So what do you need for wax readings? So you'll need a scrying bowl, blessed water. The water can also be charged by the moon or sun. So you can also use your moon water or sun water to do the readings, and candle or matches, some sort of fire. Yeah.
There are some really cool lighters and matches actually on Etsy. I know we talk about Etsy all the time, but they have the coolest witchy things out there. So they have all kinds of lighters that have cool witch things on the outside of them, or actual, like there was some really cool matches that have green tops and they're kept in this little glass jar. Looks so witchy. And I think I want to get some to light my candles and stuff with. Oh, speaking of, I forgot to tell you all on the full moon, because it was the full moon and it was a blue moon, really strong full moon, the sturgeon full moon here in August. It was August 22nd. I did some magic, which this was really cool too. Okay, totally off topic, but I have to tell you all. I was outside on the morning of the full moon and I noticed that my bees were back, and I haven't seen them since the spring. And so I just figured that's their life cycle. They come out in the spring. That's when they do all that stuff. But there were a few, and they were coming around and buzzing around me like they knew that I was going to be doing magic that day. And I did. I came down and I made Wren a anti-anxiety spell jar, and I made myself a spell jar, and I could really feel the power. It was a strong full moon, I think, but really, really fun. I meant to tell you all that. And someday I think Wren and I need to do this together, because I do think 2 witches are probably more powerful than one.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
Do I have to have it for it to work?
Well, the way I cast the spell was upon you receiving it.
Because today's been a doozy of a day with stress.
Well, you need to come over and get it
later.
But I got it ready for you. And I have some charms that are very witchy, and I wrapped a charm around it and used the candle. It's kind of an anti-anxiety and joy spell jar. And I wrote the spell myself. And I really could feel the power of that moon this time. It was so much fun. I had such a good time. And I was cleansing I made my own smudge sticks.
There. Smudge sticks.
I made my own smudge sticks a while ago, and I used those to actually cleanse the jars. So I feel like that's a double doozy, because I had magic intent when I was making my smudge sticks too. So I wanted to tell everybody about that. It was a wonderful, wonderful full moon. I would love to hear what you all did for that blue moon this August. So let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay. So you were mentioning candle.
What we need.
Matches.
What we need.
Matches. Yes. What else?
Yes. So you will need either a notepad, paper, whatever you want to take notes during the session, or anything really.
I wonder, maybe a camera too, so you can go back and really study the wax shapes. Maybe
that's true.
It's
I never thought about that. I never thought about that, because when I think of, wow, I've had a long day and I'm yawning,
and she's drinking, so
Yeah. So when I think about witchcraft, I don't know. For me, I like the traditional, nothing to do with the modern day. I mean, besides like how everything is made nowadays, like candles are completely made different. Everything's different, but I still like to use the traditional tools. And so I never even think about, I should bring in a camera to take a picture of it so I can look back on it. And I just never think of that.
So you probably don't have any kind of book of shadows on your computer or anything, do you?
No, not at all.
See, when I wrote my spells, I wrote them on the computer, but I printed them out.
So,
I bet you would handwrite your spells.
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
I like the tangible. I like the handwritten. I like the old style of things. I don't know. I don't know if it was how I was raised or what.
I think
that's just
cool.
how I like it. You can also, which I found really interesting, was you can use herbs to cleanse the space. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it.
Well, basically when you're doing spells, you cleanse your workspace before. So I guess reading a candle wax is kind of Yeah.
I didn't even think about it that way. And obviously you need candles. So the wax, I feel, can be special. So like beeswax, anything that you want. I know that most candles are made out of, what is it? Soy?
Yeah, that's because it doesn't smell, but beeswax are highly prized as well from what I've seen. So do you think the color of the candle matters? Or you talk about that later, don't you?
I do. I think that the gist of when I talk about the color, I'll just say it now. The color matters in seeing. You have to be able to see what it forms and what it does. And so you don't want a black bowl and have black wax, or a white bowl and have white wax. You want to be able to see it. But I do think that probably the color and like your intent and the color, it has a meaning to it. It probably would affect it as well.
I think it would if it's important to you. I did read that you should always use a black candle and write the question written on the side of the candle, which I thought was interesting. I mean, it's individual.
Yeah.
witchcraft isn't going to work the same for everybody. But I found that to be interesting to have it be a black candle and write the actual question on the side of the candle, which, I mean, I can see that helping you give the intent to it.
Yeah, I could see that. And that is physically doing something to the candle and then burning it. So yeah, whatever you feel is purposeful for your process. So when starting, so I have kind of like a list.
Okay.
So first, you should gather your supplies. You can use any water. You can use, well, it has to be clear water. Any water, though, drinkable, river water. River water.
I am the river.
It just has to be like clear so you can interpret the wax.
Okay.
And then use any container in place of a scrying bowl if you don't have a scrying bowl, but try to avoid plastics and aluminum. And I think don't quote me on this because there was no knowledge, like background knowledge in the site that I like why not to use plastic or aluminum, but I do have a feeling that the wax would stick to these materials.
Yeah, I bet so.
And I think that glass is probably the best way to go. And you can use like a cup, a bowl, or a shallow dish, just as long as you can hold water and you can pour your wax into it. Now, and then the bowl is not going to manipulate the wax.
I need to go buy some.
No. We've talked about this.
I know. I have a problem. I know.
So the second step is you can meditate for a few minutes or just sit quietly and focus on the mood and the questions and everything you're trying to get out of this session. Then you can write your question down on a piece of paper or notepad or wherever you want, because I think writing it down is also crucial into letting it out. Is whatever you want to do.
Yeah, this I think is the most critical point of this divination type. You've got to be really centered and really focused. I mean, basically for any kind of divination you do, because if your mind is not really focused, you don't know what the answer is really telling you. Did you think, were you scattered? And so it might be answering a different question than what you think because you weren't focused enough. I really do think that's super important.
Yeah, I'll do things like that. What else? I'll sit down and try to do something and I'm just not focused enough for that. So, and I do have like my brain thinks differently. And so I try to work with my brain, but when I'm trying to do something that my brain's like, we're not doing that today. And so I'll try to focus and then it'll be like, yeah, no. And it'll just like poof off, like, like down the drain and I'll have to come back to it later.
Like Cupid's arrow from last week. Pew, pew, pew. No, I think that's why for you, at least writing that down yourself, handwriting it as opposed to on the computer is super important for you as well, because it helps you focus that, not only is it in your mind, but it's also tactilely. It's physically in your hand.
Yeah, physically. Yes. And I do think that is a part of why I enjoy hand tangible things, like in writing things down. So step 3, if we're doing it in steps, I guess you don't have to do it in this order, but it's chronological. So then you fill your scrying dish with your clear water, whatever the water you chose. And it could be cold, not cold, not like, I want to say not refrigerator cold, but in between cold and room temperature. That's where it needs to be.
Okay.
I know that's broad, but it's broad. And you can place this on a surface, like table or surface, wherever you want, just in front of you.
Okay.
So it can be on the floor and you could be looking down from a chair. It could be right on your desk. It could be on a bedside table. It could be on a coffee table, whatever you want. It'd be in front of you.
Wherever you're comfortable. I think you need to be comfortable so that you're not thinking, oh, my butt's hard on this rock or whatever, something comfortable so that you're not distracted.
Yeah. And then step 4, then you light your candle. You hold the candle over the dish, allowing the candle wax to drip into the water. Do not move the bowl or touch the water. This is very important. So then you let the wax go naturally into the water for a few moments, and then you blow out the candle and set it aside.
Now, one of the things I read was, and you're the math person, not me, but it said you should hold it at a 145 degree angle. I'm like, what the hell is a 145-degree angle? I mean, I know 90 is horizontal.
So yeah, 90 is completely.
Oh, that's vertical? No.
Yeah. So from your surface, if you're going at a 90-degree angle from the surface, that's vertical.
Oh.
And 180 is completely flat.
Oh, so I had that backwards. Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Not a math major, guys.
So a bit tilted.
Okay.
I think and if I'm remembering, I'm a little bit fuzzy.
Like I have some candles that I use for spell casting that are like, they're bigger than birthday candles, but they're that same kind of small tapered candle. Is that the size we're talking about? Or are we talking about a big column candle, or does it matter?
I feel like it can be whatever candle you want. You just have to be able to hold it so that the wax can drip into the water.
Okay. All right.
So after you blow it out, you set it aside. Now, step 5, after sitting and after letting your water sit for a second, and after the candle's all dealt with, you can peer into the water to see the wax drippings, like what they reveal. So take close attention and careful. You gotta look careful, okay, to the shapes and the fluid movements of the wax. Some clump up. Sometimes they're not even clumpy. It's weird how the wax reacts to the water. So some of the clumps of wax may look like something natural, like an animal or an object or a number or letters. You can look at each wax dripping individually, or you can look at it as a collective whole, like what the whole thing made instead of separate little things.
So because when it goes into the water, it forms a form. Do you take it out of the water to look at it, or do you look at it in the water?
You look at it in the water, because with my experience with working with wax readings, if you try to take the wax out, and this is why the temperature of the water has to be room temperature and not too cold, because it kind of turns slimy. Think about it. Wow, what am I trying to say? Think of wax as you just blew out your candle and you've let it cool for maybe not even, depending on the size of your candle, not even 3 minutes. And it's still that, it's not completely solid yet. I have
never called that slimy.
It's like a slimy
wax.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know how else
it's
to
smooth. It's
it.
silky.
No. It's not. It sticks to you. The wax.
It does, but it's not slimy.
It's slimy, gross, and it's kind of
it's
slime.
Not gross.
No, it's kind of like slime with flour in it, clumpy, but slimy. I don't understand. You know what I'm trying to say.
I just don't agree with it.
Okay, you don't have to agree, slimy, but that's how I view it.
I have never ever thought of wax as slimy. Okay.
It's slimy when it starts to, I view it as slimy. Okay.
Okay. Let's move on.
So when looking at your images and your objects that the wax has made,
the slimy wax.
Yeah, the slimy wax. Allow yourself to be open-minded to the message you're going to because you could go into this thinking, I need this message to portray happiness for the week and show me that I'm going to have a good week, and I'm not going to miss my interview, fail my interview, fail that test, fail that whatever.
Yeah.
And you might be disappointed because you're going into it with such
biased.
A strong, you couldn't have said it better.
A strong bias. Yeah.
Try not to be too harsh. You have to be very open-minded when interpreting this image. It might not be exactly what you want or what you're hoping for. It could be completely different, and that's okay. It's okay.
And a lot of times when we are doing divination, we know inside the answer and we're hoping for something different.
Yeah.
So don't fall into that trap that, the wax said it was this, so I'm going to be okay. I can do what I want, because, sometimes, inside the answer, listen to your subconscious. And, I think the wax would try to tell you that as well. So
I feel like we all know the answer before we do it. We just don't want to.
I mean, sometimes,
accept it.
sometimes we really are needing guidance. It might be in there. We just haven't been able to get it to our forefront, to our conscious mind. Our unconscious mind might know it. And that's part of what divination is really good at, is bringing forth our unconscious, subconscious thoughts to the forefront so that we can then go, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So when interpreting these objects, if it's a number that you see, it can indicate days, weeks, months, years. It can indicate like time, like anything that has to do with numbers. Letters of can indicate like a person's name. And then the numbers can also so my name is Wren, and that's 4, right? I have 4, right? Wren. I'm like counting on my fingers, Wren. So if you get a 4 and you're like, oh man, like I really wanted this, it could also be like, oh, Wren has like 4 digits. So it could also be a place. Anything could be a place. And then if you get a circle could indicate the end of a cycle, such as a completed project, a completed relationship, which isn't just like partnership, like your spouse. It could also be friendship or like any type of relationship, friends, family, loved ones, partners. It could be anything. If there is one formation sitting at a distance from the rest of the drippings, it could represent isolation or going off on a distant trip, which the trip doesn't sound bad. The isolation doesn't sound
I go
too
for
good.
that one.
I don't want the isolation. There are no right or wrong answers when interpreting your candle wax. It's just have fun with it. If you see something, then it's probably what you see. Like, I feel like at first glance, usually how you interpret it at first glance is usually how it is. Yeah,
I love that. Your gut is going to tell you that with the first time you look at it. And then you might step back and go, oh, but really the sun is happy and warm, but it might be telling you you're about to be like burnt to a crisp, in whatever endeavor you're about to, So probably your first gut, but also be open-minded, like Wren said.
Yeah, for sure. And you're not always going to get what you want first time. Yeah. You have to practice. Practice does make perfect. So you do it over and over and over again. Then you'll get better and better, and you'll be more in tune with this type of reading, your spirituality and your abilities to do wax readings.
I mean, that's why they call it practicing witchcraft.
Yeah. And I feel like we're always practicing. Like, nobody's ever an expert. Yeah. We're always practicing. Yeah. So, and I also have a story.
Tell me a story.
So when my husband and I first started dating, we were in high school, and I had seen a wax reading video and researched it a little bit. And I was like, wow, I really want to try this. So I tried it. And what it was a wax reading to where you can see the initial, like the first letter of your partner's soulmate's name, like your future or the person you're supposed to be with's initial, right? So the way the reading went was you take a candle and you pour it into room temperature water or colder. It's that like weird, and you do it really fast. There's no dripping. So you just bloop, like you just bloop it.
Do you burn the candle first and have the wax? Okay.
So so you have your water, holy water.
We're having lots of holy water.
Yeah. So you let your candle melt for as much as you want. So let's say, right now what I have lit is like a cylindrical candle that's in a glass. It's like a really tall cylindrical candle. And so let's say I wanted a lot of wax. So I would let it melt for quite a while with the intent that I'm going for.
I gotcha.
And if I wanted to pour all of it in, I could pour all of it in. I could just do a bloop, bloop, but remember,
I love your little
but remember to blow out your candle before you do this. Blow it out, pour. Yeah. Blow it out, pour.
Okay.
So you can pour as much as you want into the water. And again, probably a glass bowl. I don't remember what bowl I used. I think I actually did use a glass bowl. And so it was actually one of the candles that he had gotten me.
Aw.
And so that itself had that special feeling to it, had that special, energy into it.
A guy is a keeper if they buy you candles.
Oh, I know.
Right.
I know.
Right.
I know. So I poured the candle wax into the water really, really fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the shape appears. Okay, a shape appears. And it's actually the initial, like his initial. Okay. It was actually his
That's
initial.
so
I'm
cool.
not lying. And I was in high school when I did this, and like we're still together, like we got married and everything. So I was looking to see, I was looking to see if like his initial would pop up if he was my lifelong partner, and it did. So I thought it was really cool, and I would share it with y'all.
You say it like, oh, I'm not lying, but I think our listeners were all witches. And so we all know that kind of thing happens. We have all experienced that kind of thing. It gives me chills. That's very cool.
I know, but even my husband doesn't like believe this stuff. And so when I told him that like when we were dating, I'm surprised he didn't like book it for the hills, when I told him that.
He married you.
But he was like, yeah, whatever, you're whatever,
I mean, mine kind of puts up with me too. But, at some point I keep feeling like, when does it become beyond coincidence that all these things are happening? He always tries to say, oh, well, that's coincidence. That's coincidence. Well, how many coincidences can I do before he's like, you're a witch?
I know. I think about that a lot because my husband and I will be driving. And so my husband, he always drives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always like, oh, slow down. There's going to be a cop up ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, whatever. And then like maybe 5 minutes later, like we'll be still on the same road. And then there's like a cop sitting there, like catching people. And he was like, what? Like the first time that happened, he was like a little freaked out. But now whenever I say it, he's like, I'm gonna slow down.
I'm listening to her.
Yeah, because every single time I say that, it's right. And it's like not always specific. I'm like, ooh, you should probably slow down because I think, something's happened up there or there's something up there. So it's either like a cop or an accident has happened or somebody's on the side of the road that we need to get over.
Intuition is a real thing. It is a very real thing. And I think witches are just more open to receiving these messages than regular people. I think anybody really could be a witch if they would just open their minds. Yeah. My husband, he's very supportive. I just he doesn't ever say, I don't believe you. He would never say that. Because
neither would mine. Mm-mm.
Yeah, he doesn't want to undercut what I believe, and he knows that I believe. But I don't know exactly what he believes. But I've got to think, the coincidences are adding up. So
I don't know. My husband will say things like, do you really believe that? And then I'll explain to him like, yes and no. And here's why. And at the end, I think I have him convinced because like his facial expression. And I'm just like, are you with me? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so I think he thinks it's at least interesting.
This kind of makes me worry when we go on our couple trips together. I wonder what they talk about when we're not around. That really scares me.
I like get a load of these wackadoos.
I know. Can you believe our wives?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, okay. I have another method that I found.
Okay.
So this alternative method is to melt the wax completely like you did and pour it into a bowl of ice water.
Okay.
So, it's different. So they say like the candle can be melted in a microwave oven, a convection oven, a regular oven, or on the stovetop using a double boiler, which of course you got to be careful because wax and all that is extremely flammable. But, or you could even float the candle, the little floating candles, you can float the candle on top of the water and allow it to melt completely down in the water, which I think is cool. But as the wax melts, it's going to pool on the water and create shapes. And this is best used with smaller candles, unless you want to be sitting there for 5 hours waiting on the candle to melt all the way down.
It's true. Yeah.
I have another. Did you know?
Okay.
In Poland, they pour hot wax into cold water, and the wax is first melted over a fire in a small mug, and it's poured through a keyhole, like let me explain, like a key, like the skeleton key looking things and the end of the key that's open on a skeleton key, they pour it through that hole.
Why?
And they wait until it hardens properly in the cold water. And then the pieces of wax are taken out of the water. That's why I asked you. And they're held against a candle. And you look at the shadow that these shapes portray on the wall. And it's the shape that the shadow makes that symbolizes what's going to happen within this coming year.
That's cool. But why do they have to pour it through a keyhole? You could just pour it without pouring it through a keyhole. I mean, I'm all for traditions and that's kind of cool. It does. But I want to know what it means. Like, what does it mean to pour wax through a keyhole?
Through a keyhole. I'll have to do some more research and report back. And then there's another method that even if you're that method that doesn't involve water, the one that I was talking about where you just burn the whole candle down. And I got that from Black Witch Coven, which the link is going to be attached. That website also is one I highly recommend. But she has a great article on this method of where you let the whole candle burn down. And it doesn't involve water. You're letting it burn down out of the water. And then she says to tell if your work was successful, a clean burn that is one that leaves no other trace other than the circle and the wick. So it actually just melts straight into a circle. And that means it's successful. A flat, smooth wax puddle, regardless of the shape, means that it worked well. If it collapses outward like a flower blossoming, you know how the flower extends outward, then your wish will be granted or it represents that possibilities and paths are open for you. If you have no wax drips on the candle at all, it's a sign of a well-conceived and properly executed spell, and that your spell will go exactly as written and expressed, which always worries me. It's like, that trickster magic where, you remember, what is the movie Wishmaker? Where you make wishes and he takes them literally, it's along the lines that we talked about before of, I wish I had $1 million. So your aunt dies and the insurance.
I know what movie you're talking about.
Wishmaster, Wish.
I can't remember.
Something. I haven't seen it in years, but
it's
Halloween. We might have to watch that one again.
Ooh.
It's Halloween. We're August and I'm like, it's Halloween.
Yeah. That's how I am. I asked my husband, I was like, when is too early to decorate for, Halloween? And he was like,
January?
at least mid-September. Can you give me at least mid-September?
Hey, by January, I haven't even taken down my Halloween vacations. Wow, this is a really strong drink. Decorations. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, but also with that candle melting all the way down, you look at the puddles for shapes. Bizarre shapes or twisted pillars of wax might mean bad times ahead, turbulent times at least. If the wax drips down one side and not any other, it might mean your life is out of balance. I mean, basically, candles are really cool. Although I might think that because I'm kind of a pyromaniac. I've got candles all around me right now.
I might also be one, but I have literally like 7 candles in each room, including the bathroom in my small apartment. Okay.
Candles, but I love fire. I really do think I've got some fire witch in me for sure. But I have another, did you know?
Okay.
There is an old superstition that was used well into the 1800s that says that you have to float a loaf of bread with a candle lit on it in a body of water to find someone who's drowned. So if someone's drowned and you're trying to find the body, you take this loaf of bread, you light a candle in it, and you put it out into the water, and it's going to float and stop over the body in the water. Isn't that crazy? And then, of course, it's also considered bad luck to fall asleep with a burning candle, but I have a feeling that's because you tend to burn shit down when you do that. I would say true. After a certain number of times of, leaving a candle lit and burning your house down, that would be considered bad luck.
That's very true. But I also feel like, in I'm not going to say ancient times because it wasn't that long ago where we didn't have electricity and all people used were candles and like sunlight and like windows. And so at night, everybody used lanterns or candles. So I feel like everybody kept their candles and lanterns going.
I mean, a lantern is different because it's protected with a glass outer casing, whereas candles really can melt, and wax is flammable. So, it melts onto the table and catches the table on fire.
Yeah, but I also feel like they just left candles on all the time too.
But it's bad luck.
Okay, it's bad luck. But I bet you they had a lot of house fires.
Yeah, they might have.
So on what you were talking about, just melting the candle, like I found that they're just called candle readings, which is like different from wax readings, but it includes wax. So I'm putting my like little blurb in here.
Okay.
So I found a really awesome website called, it's the hoodoodelish.com one. You guys can go check it out. And this website goes into depth into each shape and what you can actually see in that shape. And like there are pictures. So if you're confused as to what you're seeing, there are pictures you can click on, and it's linked to like a whole description of what you're seeing in the picture.
Wow, that would be super helpful. Yeah.
So it goes into depth about each shape, and I'm going to explain, I think 2. I picked 2 because I don't want to, and there's a lot on there, but I don't want to take away from what they put into their website. And you're definitely going to have to go check it out because I really enjoyed it. I think I spent a couple minutes like clicking through all of them. I was like, I want to know what each one is. So in these candle, like you're melting your whole candle, if you get a bubble, like on the website, it says if you get a bubble and there's like still air sealed underneath it, then that shows that things that are hidden or deeply buried will be brought to the surface, like hidden secrets or things that should be dealt with. And you kind of need to heal. So kind of like a healing process. And it could be positive or negative. It all depends on how you interpret it and like how your session, like how you go into your session, like, if you're wanting to reveal something, then this is probably good. But if you're not wanting to reveal something or somebody's hiding something from you, you're like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I guess it does depend on your question. Yeah.
And so my favorite shape that I saw on the website is a rose.
A rose.
And so a rose shape, if you get a rose shape, and this is where the wax curls and bends
I can see it,
flows into like creating this rose. And it was actually perfect because the wax that was used for that one was red. So it actually looked like a rose.
Oh, how cool.
And these can indicate love, good luck, success. It's a sign that there could be a romance upcoming or like a deep feeling of love and connection. And I only covered those 2. So that was the rest on that rose one. But I do think that y'all should check it out. I think it's very interesting. It's very informing, and there are pictures. So you don't have to go.
That is cool.
Yeah. You don't look at yours and go, what the heck am I looking at? And then there's like a thing called double scorpion. I would have no idea what I'm looking for. Right.
That's very cool to have those pictures. I found a whole bunch of shapes and potential shapes and meanings as well. I'll read a few of them, but I think pictures would be a whole lot more helpful. Like an airplane could mean a trip. An anchor could mean your loved one is faithful, which to me, an anchor could also mean you're being dragged down. It could mean you're being held stable. It could be a good thing, stable wise, or you're not being allowed to move on.
I feel like it's how you go into it.
Yeah. And what your question is.
Yeah. Because I could see where you do one and it comes out an anchor and I go into it going like, is my spouse going to leave me?
Yeah. And anchor would be a good thing. Yeah.
And it could be like, oh no, they're faithful. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Ball could mean that your problem will roll away.
I wish.
Bed means a restful holiday would be good for you. We should all get beds because I think a restful holiday would be good for all of us.
We all need that.
Bells means a wedding.
Ooh.
A bird means news is coming. A bridge means time to take a chance. See, but bridge could also mean it's time to step forward and leave things behind. It's just, you got to be open-minded.
It's how you interpret it. Yeah.
Yeah. A broom.
I feel like the way we interpret it is like the way that like the thing that we know that we knew. You know what I'm trying to say?
That's that intuition, that subconscious coming out.
Like you feel like you need to change majors, but you're not sure because you're so deep into this.
Oh Lord, are you going to change your major again?
No, it's just an example because I did do this because I was literally 3 years into my major and I went, I'm going to start all over again. So you could go, oh, like, should I change my major? And if the first thing that pops in your head when you see this bridge is like, oh, that's I need to cross this bridge into this new era.
To this new, that's
so
true.
I feel like it's like, if it's the first thing that pops into your head, that's probably what you should go with.
A candle is spiritual growth. A chain is go ahead with your plans. How they come up with that for a chain, I don't know. A circle is a time of reconciliation. A cloud is something or someone threatens you with a stormy situation.
Ooh.
A cross means you are protected, which that's kind of biased to me because for some of us, the cross doesn't have that meaning.
It's also intent. So I feel like if you believe that the cross is going to protect you, then it'll protect you.
An ear means to listen for opportunities to advance in your work. An egg means there are soon to be new developments. Speaking of eggs, another type of divination is reading eggs.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to say that one.
We'll have to do a podcast episode on that. A fan means surprise is coming. Or to me, it could mean it's going to blow your issues away or, I don't know. A feather is that the problem could be solved. I mean, there's tons of them. A snake means beware. A spider's web, it says, could be pleasant occurrences. Well, to me, a spider web always connotates lies to me.
I mean, when I think about it, you just walk into a spider web, it gets all in your face and you're like, like.
I mean, but the web of lies. I don't know why webs. See, it's different for every person.
The first thing that popped in my head was the irritating feeling of like the web on your face when you walk into it. So like the irritableness, I don't know, irritating. I can't think of the word. It's irritating.
You can't say the word because how many holy waters have you had now?
One holy water, thank you.
Just one. I don't believe you. But that's all I've got. Do you have anything more on wax?
No, I don't have anything else.
This was a fun one. I really enjoyed this one.
I like this one a lot.
Couldn't have been the holy water.
Probably was the holy water.
I miss you in person. I can't wait until we get to do this in person again.
I know. Maybe in a couple weeks. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, at some point I got to give you the jar spell I made for you.
Yeah, that'll also be a couple weeks.
Yeah, you got that anxiety. It depends on how badly you are anxious and you want to get the jar spell.
Well, I was actually going to be headed your way on Thursday, but I got too anxious, so I changed my appointment.
This spell is just waiting on you, darling. I'm telling you. Well, okay. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah. I have to do the outro.
Yes, you do, because I certainly can't do it right now.
Okay. So thank you for listening. You guys can find us on all social medias at C3 Witchy Podcast. Yes. That's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yes.
And then you can also find us at www.c3witchypodcast.com. There you will find all the links to the social medias, as well as our links to our episodes and our Patreon and merch.
Yes. Please buy our merch and please come support us. We really need support. It takes time and effort, and our husbands love us, but we'll see how far they love us as this goes on. We do need help. So please come support us. It does take time and money to do this. And we love doing it. We love sharing the magic. So come support us.
Yes. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll be back.
We'll be back.